The night Daniel Carter walked out on his pregnant wife, Emily, it didn't look like the kind of moment that changes a life. There was no shouting, no door slammed, no final argument that echoed through the walls. Just a quiet decision, made long before the words were spoken. And as Emily stood there, one hand resting gently over her stomach, trying to steady her breathing, trying to understand how something that once felt so certain could fall apart so silently. Daniel had already convinced himself that he was doing the right thing. He told himself this was honesty, that staying would only create more distance, that leaving now would hurt less than staying longer. But what he didn't understand was that some decisions don't just end relationships. They reveal who we are when things stop feeling easy. And what he didn't know, what he couldn't have known, was that the woman he was leaving behind was carrying something far greater than he ever realized. Not just his child, but a truth that would redefine everything. Before we go any further, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming stories. Emily didn't move immediately after the door closed. There are moments in life when everything changes but nothing around you reflects it. The same walls, the same furniture, the same quiet ticking of time. And yet, something inside you shifts in a way that cannot be undone. She stood there longer than she realized, her hand still resting over her stomach, as if she was trying to anchor herself to something real. Not because she expected Daniel to come back, but because part of her hadn't fully processed that he had actually left. When she finally moved, it wasn't out of clarity. It was instinct. She walked slowly through the house, noticing details she had never paid attention to before. The way the light hit the kitchen counter, the slight creak in the hallway floor, the cup Daniel had left behind. It's strange how ordinary objects can suddenly carry weight when the person attached to them is no longer there. She picked up the cup, stared at it for a moment, then placed it back down exactly where it was. Because some things don't need to be fixed immediately. Some things just need to be felt. That night, Emily didn't cry. Not because she was strong, but because the kind of pain she was experiencing didn't come with immediate release. It stayed quiet, heavy, almost distant, like something her mind hadn't caught up to yet. And as she lay down, staring at the ceiling, one thought became clearer than everything else. Nothing about her life would ever be the same again. Daniel didn't see himself as someone who walked away. That's the story people tell when they want to simplify things. But in his mind, this wasn't abandonment. It was a necessary decision. At least, that's how he framed it. Because accepting the alternative would require something far more difficult. Accountability. In the days leading up to his decision, Daniel had already started creating distance. Emotionally first, then physically. Conversations became shorter. Eye contact became less frequent. Small frustrations felt larger than they were. And slowly, he began rewriting the narrative of his own life. He told himself that Emily had changed, that the connection wasn't what it used to be, that staying would only lead to resentment. But what he didn't question was whether he had changed too. Because it's easier to leave a situation when you convince yourself it no longer fits you than to ask whether you've outgrown your own ability to stay. And then there was Sophia. Sophia Blake didn't enter Daniel's life dramatically. She didn't need to. She entered gradually in a way that felt natural, which is often how the most significant changes begin. She understood his world, his ambitions, his need for movement, for growth, for something that felt like progress. Where Emily brought stability, Sophia brought momentum. And to Daniel, at that point in his life, momentum felt like the better option. Their conversations flowed easily. There was no history to navigate, no expectations to manage, just ideas, energy, and a shared understanding of what success looked like. And for a while, that felt like everything. But what Daniel didn't realize was that relationships built on escape often feel powerful in the beginning, because they aren't being tested yet. While Daniel stepped into a life that felt faster, louder, and more exciting, Emily moved in the opposite direction, toward something quieter, more grounded. Her father's condition had been declining slowly but steadily, and now, more than ever, she found herself spending long hours by his side. Richard Hayes wasn't just a father. He was a man who understood patience, who believed that the most valuable things in life weren't the ones that demanded attention, but the ones that grew quietly over time. And as Emily sat beside him, listening to the calm rhythm of his voice, she found something she didn't have anywhere else in her life at that moment. Clarity, not about what had happened, but about what mattered. And even though she hadn't told him everything, even though she carried that silence carefully, there was a part of her that knew this time mattered more than anything else. The day Richard Hayes passed didn't feel like the kind of day that would carry so much weight. There was no urgency in the air, no sudden rush of panic, just a quiet stillness that settled into the room, as if time itself had slowed down to acknowledge what was about to happen. Emily sat beside him, her hand gently wrapped around his, the same hand that had guided her through childhood, that had steadied her through moments of uncertainty, that had always carried a sense of control and calm, now rested lightly in hers. For a long time, neither of them spoke, not because there was nothing to say, but because some moments don't require words. Richard looked at her, not with fear, not with regret, but with something deeper, understanding, as if he already knew she would be okay, as if he trusted her with everything he was leaving behind. And when the moment finally came, it was quiet. No straged, no resistance, just a final breath and then stillness. Emily didn't react immediately, because grief doesn't always arrive as emotion. Sometimes it arrives as silence. Days later, Emily found herself sitting in a room that felt too formal for the moment she was in. Across from her were people who had worked with her father for years. Advisors, lawyers, individuals who spoke with the kind of precision that comes from handling things of great importance. But nothing prepared her for what came next. At first, it sounded simple, structured, expected, a transfer of assets, a continuation of responsibilities. But as the details unfolded, the scale of what her father had built became impossible to ignore. This wasn't just wealth. It was a system, a network of carefully managed investments that had grown steadily over decades. Real estate holdings across multiple states, private partnerships, long-term financial structures designed not for attention, but for longevity. And then came the part that changed everything. Emily wasn't just receiving a portion of this. She was receiving all of it. Every decision, every asset, every responsibility, entrusted entirely to her. And in that moment, the quiet life she had always known shifted into something far greater than she had ever imagined. Emily didn't feel excitement. That's what surprised her the most, because this wasn't the kind of moment that created celebration. It created awareness. She sat there listening, absorbing information that would take weeks, months, even years to fully understand. But beneath all of it, there was something else forming. Responsibility, not just to maintain what her father had built, but to understand it, to respect it, to continue it in a way that aligned with who she was. And for the first time since Daniel left, Emily felt something steady return. Not happiness, not relief, but direction. Because while her life had changed in ways she didn't choose, she now had the ability to shape what came next. And that realization was more powerful than anything else. 52:00. Daniel didn't hear the truth all at once. It came in fragments. A conversation at work, a passing comment, something mentioned casually, without emphasis, but with just enough detail to linger. At first, he ignored it, because it didn't make sense. Emily? Wealth? It didn't fit the version of her he had carried in his mind. But the thought didn't leave him. And curiosity, when left unanswered, has a way of growing. So he asked another question, then another, each one leading him closer to something he hadn't expected to find. And slowly, the pieces began to connect. The quiet visits to her father, the things she never spoke about, the parts of her life he never fully understood because he never thought to ask. And when the truth finally became clear, Daniel didn't react immediately, because some realizations don't create instant emotion. They create a pause, a moment where everything you thought you knew begins to shift. The truth didn't hit Daniel all at once. It settled in slowly, like something his mind resisted at first, but couldn't fully ignore. He sat in his office longer than usual that evening, staring at nothing in particular, replaying conversations that once felt insignificant. The small details, the quiet things Emily never explained and he never asked about. Not because she was hiding anything, but because he never thought it mattered. That was the part that stayed with him. He never thought it mattered. And now, everything he dismissed, everything he overlooked, had become the very thing he couldn't stop thinking about. But it wasn't just about wealth. That would have been easier to process. It was what the wealth represented. The life he walked away from without ever fully understanding it. The woman he thought he had outgrown, without realizing he had never truly known her. And for the first time since he left, Daniel felt something he had been avoiding. Doubt. At first, Daniel tried to ignore it. He told himself it didn't matter, that what Emily had inherited had nothing to do with the life he was building now, that looking back would only complicate things. But something had already shifted, and once that shift happens, it doesn't go away. Sophia noticed it before he admitted it. The way his attention drifted during conversations. The way his responses became shorter, less engaged, less certain. At first, she brushed it off. Everyone gets distracted. But over time, it became harder to ignore. Because the dynamic between them had always been built on energy, on movement, on a shared sense of direction. And now, something about Daniel felt still. Distant. Not physically, but mentally. And that kind of distance is harder to hide. While Daniel struggled with questions he didn't know how to answer, Emily moved forward with clarity. Not because everything felt easy, but because she had accepted that her life had changed. And resisting that change would only make it harder. She didn't rush into decisions. She didn't try to prove anything. Instead, she focused on understanding, meeting with advisors, reviewing documents, learning the structure her father had built piece by piece. And what stood out to her the most wasn't the size of what he left behind. It was the intention behind it. Nothing was rushed. Nothing was careless. Everything had been built to last. And slowly, Emily began to approach her own decisions the same way. Not for attention, not for recognition, but for stability, for purpose, for something that would outlast the moment she was in. When Noah was born, everything else became secondary. The uncertainty, the past, the questions, they didn't disappear, but they no longer held the same weight. Because at that moment, Emily wasn't thinking about what she had lost. She was thinking about what she now held. She looked down at him, small, quiet, completely unaware of everything that had happened before he arrived, and felt something settle inside her. Clarity, not about the future, but about her role in it. She wasn't just moving forward anymore. She was building something, and that changed everything. Regret doesn't always announce itself. It builds, quietly, through moments you don't expect. Daniel started noticing it in the spaces between things. After conversations ended, after achievements that didn't feel as satisfying as they should have, after nights that felt full, but somehow incomplete. And eventually, it became impossible to ignore. Because what he had chosen no longer felt like an upgrade. It felt like something he was trying to convince himself was worth it. And that realization is difficult to sit with. Because it forces you to ask a question most people try to avoid. What if I was wrong? When Daniel reached out to Emily, he chose his words carefully. Simple, measured, neutral. Because anything more would reveal what he wasn't ready to admit. Emily didn't respond immediately. She read the message more than once. Not searching for meaning, but deciding whether it deserved her attention. And when she finally agreed to meet, it wasn't out of curiosity. It was closure. The cafe was quiet, neutral, a place where nothing from the past could shape the present. When Daniel saw her, he noticed it instantly. Not a dramatic transformation, but something deeper. She looked settled, grounded in a way he couldn't fully explain. And for the first time, he realized something that stayed with him for the rest of that conversation. She didn't need anything from him anymore. They spoke calmly. About Noah, about time, about practical things. But beneath every word, there was a distance that hadn't been there before. And eventually, Daniel said it. Not perfectly, not confidently, but honestly enough to be understood. He asked if there was a chance to start again. Emily didn't answer immediately. She looked at him, not with anger, not with resentment, but with clarity. And when she spoke, her words were steady. She told him that some decisions don't just change circumstances. They reveal character, not in moments of comfort, but in moments of uncertainty. She said that when things became difficult, he chose to leave. And that choice mattered, not because it hurt her, but because it showed her who he was when things weren't easy. She explained that moving forward wasn't about forgetting. It was about understanding. Understanding what she deserved. Understanding what she would accept. And understanding what she would never go back to. Then she said something that stayed with him long after she left. She told him that sometimes the greatest loss in life isn't what you walk away from. It's something you never took the time to understand before you left it behind. And then she stood up, calm, certain, unshaken, and walked away. Daniel didn't follow, because for the first time he understood that some things don't come back. Not because they can't, but because they shouldn't. And as he sat there in the silence that followed, he realized something that no success, no achievement, no future decision could change. He didn't just lose Emily. He lost the life he never took the time to value. And sometimes, that realization is the only thing left. If this story reached you, if any part of it felt real to something you've experienced, seen, or held on to, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what comes next. I read every comment, every single one. See you soon.